So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jen McCarron. I'm a board member of the Corporate Legal Ops Consortium, and I also lead Netflix's legal operations and technology team.
My name is Kevin Belowski. I'm the Director of Legal Operations at Husch Blackwell, and I am based in Kansas City, Missouri.
Thank you very much. I'm J.Y. Miller. I'm a partner at Husch Blackwell, and I lead our asbestos defense solutions team.
Today, we're talking through the inaugural Legal Innovation and Operations, or LIO, project recognition of the Midwest firm Husch Blackwell to talk about a recent project and legal innovation that we recognize at CLOC as thought leadership in our legal industry.
The MWC initiative was a situation where we had met with the general counsel of a large organization out on the East Coast, SPX. They retained Husch Blackwell to do some work. We ended up on one of their panels. And in the course of being on their panel, they did what a lot of large corporate legal organizations do, and they had a panel summit. Well, during that panel summit, one of our associates that we sent to the panel summit recognized an opportunity in the course of the proceedings during the day that they had a need around managing their asbestos litigation portfolio. She quickly identified it, talked with the GC briefly, and then brought that opportunity back to JY, who then just started the ball rolling with all the resources we have at our firm to put together a proposal on how we thought we could positively impact the way they were managing their portfolio. We had similar success around a couple other experiences with clients, and really move forward with the initiative and have been at it for, I think we're coming up on about a year now.
Could you dig deep into that conversation? What was the real catalyst for the approach and sort of getting into this problem space with your client?
Certainly. And so shortly after the opportunity was first identified, I spoke to the general counsel of SPX, John Nurkin, and he was very clear in what the business had been doing, which was the traditional approach to asbestos litigation. This was a very mature litigation for the company. They had thousands of claims, and they had taken the same approach for a long period of time, and they simply weren't receiving the results that the business required. And John was very clear about what the business needed. They needed better results. They needed to obtain those results while preserving more resources of the company. So they needed to spend less in terms of the defense costs, but also the settlement costs that were associated with the litigation. And we're very grateful that John Nurkin and the rest of the executive team at SPX chose to partner with us on this initiative. We just completed our first year of service as their National Coordinating Counsel, and I think we'll talk about the results, but they were tremendous.
Some of the outcomes were a reduced active docketing, the quantity of matters by 30%, lowering spend by 30%. Were those kinds of numbers thrown around in the initial conversations from the general counsel, from your client, or from their executive leadership, or did you guys set those milestones, or is that just where the project landed?
From the outset, we understood that they had a clear understanding of the direction they wanted to head, and they were reducing the open claims, especially the claims that posed the highest threat, and then reducing the spend, again, the legal costs associated with the work, but also the settlement spend. We decided to partner for Husch Blackwell and SPX and actually place incentives into our financial arrangement that would incentivize our NCC team in order to hit these performance indicators and then hopefully receive rewards on the back end.
There was sort of a 3-tier structure to this. You guys had an incentives structure around a process and then a tech framework. Digging into some of these incentives, can you elaborate on that? Is it the alternative fee arrangement? I think that's what we're getting towards here. And how do you align incentives across your firm and the other 2 firms involved in this matter?
One of the fundamental concepts that's an underpinning of our entire model is aligning incentives. We believe in it. At the end of the day, Husch Blackwell is focused on creating a long-term strategic business relationship with a client. We love a fixed fee approach, and that's the approach that we use for this model. Certainly in this model, Husch Blackwell took on a lot of the risk of the rising litigation fees with this fixed model. But one of the wonderful things we have is Kevin, and he's our strategic pricing director, and he provides incredible analysis and a view towards helping us scope out the work and then price it in a fair manner for the client and for the firm so that we can both achieve success together.
That's really music to a legal operations person's ears, right? Where you're aligning the project work to business outcomes and or success metrics, and then you're having your firm, your team, perform to those rather than a straight cut of hours. In that space of the AFA, when you talked about the risks associated with this, can you elaborate maybe and give us what's one significant success of this model, and what is one significant challenge you can speak to of the fixed fee approach?
There are many successes with the model. I think one, the company was able to achieve cost certainty, and we have a 3-year agreement, and so they were able to record that cost certainty and put that into their calculations for their business over that 3-year period. Another tremendous advantage, I think, to the company is as a result of the business model we put in place, they have more time and resources to dedicate to high-level activity. But I think it's something that it's part of the risk equation, is the understanding that to have this type of partnership and be successful, it necessarily involves a huge investment on the part of the NCC firm, of Husch Blackwell. And if this is going to go well, it has to have a great start. That if you're investing in a long-term relationship, you've got to make that investment on the front end. And when you look at it through that lens, we know that it's well worth it.
It sounds like this incredible investment that happens up front. It requires an approach. It requires planning. LPM, legal project management, highlighted throughout the materials I've read. Can you share a little bit more about that initial investment process and give some examples on how LPM is used?
In this instance, there are really 3 areas we focused specifically. First one were revolved around scoping. So JY talked about all the matters that we had to transition in. Well, scoping out each of those matters could take a considerable amount of time to get through. We used our experience, our technology to routinize and bring to the table a level of automation around triaging those matters and assigning them well-defined scope or map of how it's going to be managed based on some initial risk variables that we were able to glean off of the data we received. So scoping and knowing what we're going to be doing, taking that scope and then using the second part of legal project management is resource allocation and knowing which resources we're going to apply to which matters. There's inefficiency in that process in making sure that specific resources, whether that's at the local council level or within Husch Blackwell, are doing very specific tasks and activities associated with that matter. No more, no less. So it's very inefficient in assigning those resources. Lastly, one of the key components of LPM that we use was the monitoring. So if and when we see a matter deviate from that initial scope of work, we have alerts in place to know, okay, it's migrating away from our original scope. We need to descend on that matter, assess what is happening. Do we need to change the resources? Do we just need to communicate with local counsel and let them know, hey, you guys aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing, or adjusting our team internally. So it's that monitoring piece. So really, those are the 3 main avenues of LPM that we applied to this initiative.
You're leveraging an incredible array of skill sets, of role types. Aside from maybe yours and JY's role, what would you say in this phase is the most critical role to achieve success and to hit that May 1st, day 1 go live, ready to execute?
We have a world-class IT group, and Gene DeVersa in our IT team He's our director of knowledge management. We work closely with him in the implementation of the various technology components of this initiative. Just an invaluable resource. So I think you have to have someone with their eyes on the technology side, implementing something this complex in an efficient manner. And Gene was our guy.
It's amazing, and the coming together of all of our disciplines. And JY, you touched on it a bit, how you get into truly understanding the culture, the needs, and this strengths and weaknesses model. When you're in there with your client, what framework do you use to go in there and highlight human strengths and weaknesses? And is that taught in law school?
Well, it's certainly not taught in law school, or at least it wasn't many moons ago. But I can tell you it is taught at Husch Blackwell, and it is something very intentional that we talk about with all of our people, and starting with our brand new associates. And we take them through a series of trainings and discussions where we actually talk about how to have a meaningful conversation with a client that's designed to help you identify what their real needs are, is part of the fabric of our firm and our training of our people from day one.
It's connecting with the client, understanding, I think I read their strategy, their philosophy, and earning trust. But maybe you can share some of the secret sauce for us and our members. What is in the Husch Blackwell meaningful convo?
Frankly, I have to give the real credit to the company in this. And it started with the general counsel, John Nurkin, who I said before was very clear in his direction. He was very clear in defining how they define success, in defining their expectations.
It's interesting, I'm digging for some secret formula that maybe none of us know, but what you just illustrated is a real humanistic approach to this. It has adaptability in there. It's understanding your client, dedicating time to be in there listening. At Husch, it sounds like you really lead with that and frame your engagements with that humanistic piece up front. And it's very interesting and compelling.
I think you're absolutely right. And to really support and promote that approach, it has to be part of your core, of your organization's core, from your values, your principles, your compensation structure, your messaging every single day to your people. That's one of the things I'm really proud of when it comes to our firm, is that we've jumped in with both feet when it's this commitment to our clients.
I think you really hit at the crux of legal operations. Gentlemen, with that, thank you very much. Congrats on your recognition with the Legal Innovation and Operations Award, our inaugural LIO award. And we'll look forward to hearing more great things out of you guys soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Traditionally, in asbestos litigation, the NCCs really don't get involved until the cases get set for trial. And by that time, local counsel would have billed us on matters that effectively we shouldn't have been putting any time on.
So SBX initially came to us with a business problem. They had rising litigation costs. They had increased risk as the active cases continued to grow.
One of the things that I thought was important was to get a feel for their overall strategy and overall philosophy. Was I wanted to get a better understanding of making sure that the incentives were truly aligned with the number of strategies that we were looking to employ for our overall portfolio.
One of the things we really care about is just in aligning the incentives between the company that we're representing and the firm, as opposed to just kind of treating each case individually. We look at the entire global docket.
You've got to attack it like the business problem that it is and bring a holistic solution to the table.
Those initial conversations typically involve, hey, what metrics are you using internally to measure success? Is it simply coming in under budget? Is it reducing the number of claims? All these metrics that are important to not only the general counsel or the in-house team, but also the legal ops group, who is typically tasked with managing that data and measuring that data over a period of time. They want to understand, what are we going to be driving towards?
One of the things that I quickly recognized was how Husch Blackwell utilizes its resources in focusing on the cases that are actually problematic, and then shift to focus on the overall portfolio.
It's not about simply consuming fewer resources in defending the litigation. It's about concentrating those resources to where they'll have the greatest impact and you get the greatest return on each investment. That's our focus, and that's why it's really different.
We have different client teams. We have an expert team. We have a high priority team that focuses on the most serious cases for the client and gets those cases trial ready. We have the expert team that makes sure that our experts are being consistently used across the country and having consistent opinions. Consistency is really important for the client so that we know that they're taking the same position across the country so that that won't come back to bite them in another jurisdiction.
We have a world-class IT group who can bring some of the more modern technologies into play. We have historical data that we can look at over thousands and thousands of matters. Patterns start to emerge, and we can leverage those patterns into our intake process to understand where we need to apply our resources, which matters are going to be the problem matters, and apply our resources there efficiently and cost effectively.
One of the good things about their approach to this litigation is their ability to reduce your overall inventory, which was in line with one of our goals and objectives at SPX.
The first 6 months of that partnership, we produced extraordinary results in lowering their active docket by over 30%, by decreasing their legal spend by even more than that. Meanwhile, also making very deliberate, intentional investments to protect the company for the long term.
We think of ourselves as stewards of our clients' money, and we have to be effective and efficient with how that money is spent. So we make sure we're aligned with people, processes, and the technology.
This firm is different because, one, the processes, two, their culture, and last but not least, their constant focus on driving and creating value for their clients.
I mean, firm-wide, we have innovation efforts going across our entire platform, so we're starting to get folks to think about things differently, how they can be doing their work differently, where the efficiencies are, leveraging the technologies out there in the legal space today, and bringing those to the table.
When we align incentives with the company, we really sit down with them, we learn everything there is to know about them and what their goals are truly.
They understand my strengths and weaknesses and what I need in order to be successful.
From day one, we teach our attorneys to be empathetic, to try to understand the client's needs, feelings, thoughts from their point of view, and bring that to our client service model every single day.
And they're genuine about the culture.